So, again, names and spellings since we're starting again. Scott Goldstein, Fire Chief, Montgomery County Fire Rescue. Behind me is Assistant Chief Willie Parker Lone, Montgomery County Police. Gaithersburg City Police Chief Mark Soroka. Patrick Lacefield, Montgomery County Department of Health and Human Services and the Sheltering Task Force. And Assistant Chief Mark Yamada, Montgomery County Police Department. Patrick Lacefield was a PIO. Patrick Campbell is the person who's behind me. We'll be back here at 5. Our next cycle will be 5 o'clock for our next update. Since we last talked, Washington Gas has shut off the gas to the buildings. You may have seen the work to my left. That gas has been isolated, and we no longer have a gas-fed or gas-supported fire in the building itself. There still is and will be for quite a period of time a smoldering fire in the building. In the debris, the rubble pile as we would call it, there will be small pockets of burning material for several hours or maybe even a day or more to come until we are able to get to that and put water on that. So you will still see smoke throughout the building. Victims information, no changes. No changes since we last talked. Okay. If you need me at the end, I will provide those specifics. The number of buildings remain the same: 824, 826, 828, and 830. One of the activities that Fire Rescue has engaged with since our 10:30 briefing is we have had Fire Rescue personnel go through, or they're still in the process of going through, all of the units in the 700 and 800 block of Quince Orchard Boulevard. All of the even number units, which would be on this side of the street behind us. They have gone through all of the common spaces in those units, and there is no active leaks, there is no active gas concerns in all of those buildings. The residents, when they come back to this complex tonight, and those that are able to reoccupy tonight, should feel safe that Fire Rescue personnel have gone through those units and have checked those units in all common areas. If there's any questions, any of those residents, immediately call 911. Fire Rescue will be out to assist them. Updates in the last about 45 days, we have looked through the call information for this complex. As I answered a question earlier, there was no previous call today, and there was no previous calls in the preceding days here. There was one call back in late parts of September for a gas leak in 826. No other calls since September 22nd at 826. No other calls in 24 or 28. Operations currently on site. As I said, the gas has been shut off. Structural engineer has arrived. It's an update from our 10:30 version. They have and continue to assess the building and determine how the building can be addressed, meaning how it can be shored, how operations can go on around and inside of the building. Accountability of the occupants. We talked at 10:30 that we were working city officials, county officials, and fire rescue investigators working to identify, make contact with all of the folks in these buildings, 26 and 28, as our primary. As of now, all of the occupants of 828 have been contacted. All of the occupants of 828 have been contacted and are accounted for. There is one unit in 826 that we still have not made contact with. I said earlier there were 6 units per building, so that's one unit of the 6 in 826 we have not been made contact with, and investigators still are working diligently to make contact and identify those occupants' location and their safety. One more nugget before I pass the information on to HHS and Patrick. Again, operations will continue for quite some time as we work to stabilize the building, begin investigative efforts, continue to put the fire out. So this will not be completed today. It'll be a multi-day event. Let me have Patrick come up and talk about the HHS team that's at work in helping these residents, and then we'll come back for questions.
All right, first, my comments are going to be focused on the human services impact, what we're going to do to assist the residents, but also in what we're going to do to assist the folks in fundraising funds to assist the residents in their next step recovery. My name is Patrick Campbell. I'm the Senior Planning Manager for Mass Care Operations. Today at 3 p.m. we will open up a reception center and a shelter at the Activity Center at Borough Park. The address for that is going to be 506 South Frederick Avenue, and that's Gaithersburg. At that site, we'll offer the opportunity to work with folks on next steps for their housing, recovery, check-in, food. We'll also continue to provide crisis services. We'll also have medical staff on board to assist folks with medication and things like that. So that's going to be a critical site for providing ongoing care. We'll also continue to provide services just at the community center here on site. For fundraising, that is a huge part of assisting these folks in recovering. The website for the fundraise is going to be housed by Montgomery Housing Partners. The webpage for that is mhpartners.org, and then it's /Gaithersburg Fire /.
Can you do that again?
Yep. So the webpage is mhpartners.org /Gaithersburg Fire. That will be the county's primary site for fundraising. People often ask us, how much does that fund go towards the residents? 100% of that fund is provided for the residents. We have a recovery team that will continue to outreach to the community. Recovery starts today, but HHS will be with these residents throughout the coming months. Our goal is to work on our short-term needs, dealing with their crisis needs, and then long-term housing solutions for these residents. That's everything from assisting folks who do have insurance or folks who may not have insurance, and that will be long-term assistance. But best place for any residents to start is to show up at Borough Park today and check in with our team. Any residents who may not be here today, we will work through, reach out to them. We have a residents list, we'll call them. But HHS is here to support those residents in long-term recovery needs.
Do you know how many are displaced at this point?
At this point, I don't have a full count. We're in the middle of doing a screening because we want to make sure before we give out a number that we have an accurate number. And sometimes you may have family members visiting. You might have an extended family that's in tow, so we're just not 100% sure on the final number.
And these are condos and rental units?
Yeah, so it's very common. People do subletting some of their condo units. So there's going to be some rental units within here, some that are owned. So that's why sometimes I want to make sure our numbers are correct before we say a name, a number.
And sorry, the name of the center one more time.
It's the Activity Center at Borough Park.
Can you spell that? I didn't know.
Yeah, so it's spelled B-O-H-R-E-R. Yeah, and it's right next to Gaithersburg High School.
Are there any shuttles taking folks?
Yeah, we'll provide shuttle service as well. We have a mixture of folks. Some folks have cars, but they just can't get to them right now. So we'll make sure we'll have a shuttle service to bring them there and back, depending on how long they need to be there. Meals are also being provided here and also at the Activity Center.
That's going to be an overnight shelter?
Most likely, yes.
Fair to say that dozens of people are...
That's correct.
Thank you. So let me expand on Bruce's number of dozens. So remember, we talked about 4 buildings, 6 units per building. That's 24 units with the potential occupancy using 2 to 3 persons per unit. We could be clearly at 50 to 75 people impacted because of the 4 buildings. We're still making an assessment on any of the other buildings in the complex, but again, that 24, 26, 28, and 30 will be displaced for the immediate term and maybe for a midterm or more.
Chief, can I just ask you to clarify?
Bear with me. I'm gonna start over here because I heard that, and then I'm gonna go my right to my left.
This is just on the same line. At the last briefing, you said there were 9 units that you had yet to check out. Today, you just said there was 1 building was everyone was accounted for, and then there's 1 unit in the other building. So of the 9 that hadn't been checked out previously, is
Right.
there 1 remaining?
So let me refresh what we said at 10:30.
Yep.
There's 6 units per building.
Yep.
Based upon the structural damage, all 6 units in 826 are damaged significantly as part of the explosion. The 3 units on the left portion of 828 are also impacted by the structural collapse and the explosion. That's how we get to 9 units, okay? The remaining units in 828 were searched by fire rescue personnel with confidence that there was nobody in any of the other units in 828. As our team has worked through this, the investigators have made contact with all of the occupants in 828. Again, everybody in 828 is accounted for. There is 1 unit from 826, which is unaccounted for. Does that help and clarify that?
So the other 5 have.
All of the other 5 units in 826 are accounted for.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Darcy?
Yes, so you mentioned September 22nd, I believe, building
Yep.
826, there was a gas leak call. What more can you tell us about that? Was it the fire department? You responded? What was the result of that? Was anything fixed?
So we did respond. The fire department responded to that event. We are reviewing the information on that. We'll be able to provide that to you probably, hopefully at our next activity. Okay?
Start washing gas?
I don't have that information yet, Darcy, but we will provide that. I'm gonna stay. Okay.
Well, Chris Franklin from CBS News. Did the timing of this, the fact that it maybe happened when folks weren't all at home, play into the fact that you've been able to track people down and that you don't have a higher injury and death count?
So indeed, as this is a very residential but also working class neighborhood, the 8:45 or so in the morning time frame, compared to some of our other events being at midnight, really plays a role in our occupancy numbers and our risk. So it has an impact. So, yes.
Can you talk at all, any update on whether, so there was no work that was being done here last week pertaining to a gas line according to...
I don't have any information on that. Okay, we'll make a note. Work to come back.
Was there work being done today at that building, any of these buildings?
No work being done
Not necessarily gas work, but maintenance type work.
inside of the buildings. No work that I'm aware of.
What about outside?
Some of the witnesses told us about a 9 months baby that they held to with his mother who left the building. Do you have any information about this baby?
There's CPR done.
Okay, so I can. So the question was, a resident talked about a nearly 1-year-old child that was assisted out of the building by other residents. I don't have any information about that resident, that person, and how they were rescued. There was a maintenance crew that used a ladder to assist somebody off the rear. I mentioned that already. And then there was another resident that reportedly jumped from a rear balcony and was assisted prior to fire department arrival by the maintenance crew or by residents on site. As I outlined earlier, of the patients transported, only 4 of them were children, and all 4 of those were in the mild to moderate category of injuries. So I hope that helps answer the information as we have it on this child's case.
Chief, a couple questions. At this point, what do you think led to this?
Don't have any information, Stephanie, as to what led to this explosion. It's too early to identify what, how, where, or why.
And then in terms of the 1 unit that's still unaccounted for, any idea how many people were in there?
No. As Patrick talked about, these are condos and maybe sublet condos. What we have from the maintenance office is 1 point of contact and name. That's what we're working with. Usually in an apartment situation, the maintenance office knows how many people are, on the lease for inside that apartment. We don't have that here, which makes a different approach.
And there was also a complaint made, you talked about September, but we did talk to people who said that they called 911 from 4 weeks ago. What is the process? Do you know any more about the process of how they're supposed to respond here? Fire response, maintenance department, maintenance complex supposed to respond. Is there any more information on that? They say any more that they've responded following up to the September 22nd call?
So I'm going to ask you to repeat that, Stephanie, so I can capture it.
So do you know any more about what the complex's response is supposed to be to that previous September 22nd call that you mentioned?
No, I do not have any information as to what the complex's response was. We have pulled our information for the September 22nd incident, and we were reviewing that. And as I said, we will hopefully at our next session have more information on that. I think you had a tie up to that.
I know, look, you went through it at Summit 1030, and I know you can't say exactly what made this happen. But can you just describe again for us what you guys encountered, your guys and gals, your teams encountered when they got here, and the damage to the building? I mean,
Sure.
This was a complete blowout, up, collapse, the whole shebang.
So 911 calls were received, and I would use the word a deluge of 911 calls were received right at about that 8:40 a.m. time frame, reporting explosions here. Those calls included an explosion at the elementary school, the pool house, and apartment building. So all three of these different types of structures were included in the 911 caller's narrative as to what or where the incident was. When our crews arrived, we did find an apartment building, which is building 826, with clear signs of building explosion, building collapse, as well as significant fire in that building and also in the adjacent building, which was 828. In any type of these explosions, and some of you have been with us for the other events we've had, you do have a debris field. You do have, evidence in front and around the building, and that is indeed the case here. You see signs of the building, parts of the building, in the parking lot, in the lawn behind the building. As I said, the crews were faced with patients, residents needing to be treated, as well as an active fire, as well as an actively collapsing or further decaying building, and the need to search the remaining parts of the building. So that's a good summary of what we found when we arrived at just before 9 a.m.
And natural gas is the suspicion at this point. Is natural gas the suspicion?
No, natural gas is not a suspicion. What I identified is that there was a gas-fed fire present to us once we got here, and that we had to then control the gas to shut that fire, to turn that fire off. Is it involved? That'll be part of our investigative process.
Chief, to what Stephanie was talking about with residents reporting problems with gas before this, gas leaks that had to be repaired, how can you say that the gas has been shut off to that specific building, but since this is the same construction throughout this community, how are you going to tell residents to feel safe here with these previous experiences?
So thank you, and that was a question that came from the resident group at 10:30 when we were here before. I want to repeat what we said. Fire rescue crews have completed or still are in the process of checking all of the buildings in the 700 and 800 block even, which are these apartments behind me on this side of Quince Orchard Boulevard. Check all of those buildings, check all of the common areas of those buildings to determine and to identify that there is no active leaks, no active gas in those buildings. That is underway and will be completed very shortly, if not already. Anybody who comes home in this complex today, anybody in any complex throughout the DC region today, tonight, tomorrow, next week, who smells gas, their first priority is to get out of the building. Their second priority is to then contact 911, not their utility provider, and stay outside until after the emergency services are on site. Okay?
And just one more thing. You said that you only got that one call September 22nd. Other than that, you're saying crews have not been out here, and if that's not the case, then have you talked with the management company? Have they dealt with anything that you're aware of?
So I did say we were out here on September 22nd. I did answer Stephanie or Darcy and said that we have not talked to management and we have not interacted with them about their response to prior gas concerns. That information will be more forthcoming. Bruce.
Chief, thank you. It sounded like you haven't had a chance to check this out yet, considering all the other things that you're doing, but on some of the videos provided by some of the residents, there are cones and signs of digging like a trench.
Okay.
Are you aware of
I am.
any of that, and can you speak to that at all?
I can, and that question was over here, and I'm sorry we skipped over that question earlier.
Oh,
So,
I asked about outside
so
work.
there was work being done on the exterior of the rear of the building by a company. We are aware of that. We have talked to those folks. Those folks were witnesses, very helpful witnesses to the explosion itself I believe they were involved with the rescues and the assistance of those people there. I will identify that there is no initial concern that that work is related to a leak or to this explosion. And I use the word initial concerns at this time, Bruce. That's still too early to be able to rule out or rule in circumstances, okay? I'm gonna ask this gentleman here and then I'll walk my way back around.
I had so I know you don't have a lot of information. How do we follow up on this? And if there is something leading to a leak investigation, is there something that the people here can do to file a complaint, or who should we go to notify about this?
So as it relates to a helping of this investigation, if you have information about this event or information about prior events here, please see one of the fire rescue or police personnel on the scene and we'll take your information for that.
Should we go to the city at all?
Bear with me. I'm talking about this event or prior leak events here. Please reach out to a fire rescue or police official here. Let me get a better answer for that broad question for the resident interaction between HHS and the police, and we'll make sure we provide that to you at their next briefing. Okay? Because yes, we are in the Gaithersburg city, and Gaithersburg city is very much involved in you know their city activities.
Chief, what about the injuries to the kids? Smoke inhalation, any burns?
No burn injuries were reported. No smoke inhalations. Nobody was taken to MedStar for smoke inhalation or burn injuries. I said they were taken to Montgomery County hospitals for mild to moderate injuries.
Chief, can you just clarify when you mentioned 45 days earlier? So you went back 45 days and now one report, is that correct?
So when I said 45 days, Darcy, that's an approximation to roughly whatever September 22nd is from now. So that may be just a little bit shy or more than that. But we went back a ways, and that was the only one we found, September 22nd, that dealt with 826 or anything else in that 800 block of Quince Orchard Boulevard. Okay? All right, I'm gonna, Stephanie.
Chief, what's different for you this time around with this scene, this explosion that we've been here a couple times?
What's different for me?
How is this different from some of the others?
I don't believe there's anything different at this time. We've had different complexes. We've had different dynamics. We talked about this before. In this general region, the DC region, there's roughly a building explosion once a year throughout this region. Montgomery County, throughout my roughly 30 plus years, it's usually every 5 or 6 years we have a gas related or building explosion that's gas involved. But to say different between this one and Littonsville, nothing that I can think of at the moment.
Do you have any concerns that the three major ones, Flower Branch, Littonsville, and now this one that we're reporting on, these have happened in working class communities that involve a lot of black and brown residents, immigrants, people who sometimes don't have many means to start off with?
Right.
Do you have any concerns there?
I don't have concerns about the incidents being in our equity impact areas. No. As you said, the members in these residential communities are challenged in some of their job as well as residential arrangements, and they are very much higher or deeply impacted by these events than they may be in other areas with different population base. One of the things that is extraordinarily strong about Montgomery County is how the county as a collaborative team comes to assist the residents with rehousing, with assistance processes. And that's because of the team of folks from nonprofits as well as county government that are here to assist these residents. Okay? So 5 o'clock, everybody, will be back, and thank you for your time.